Yesterday, Anthropic shipped a new flagship model, and buried in the announcement is something no frontier AI lab has ever given you before. Not a benchmark, not a bigger context window. A dial, an actual knob you can turn per request that trades how hard the model thinks against how much it costs you. Think about what it means that this is a headline feature in 2026. The most valuable AI companies on Earth spent 2 years selling you intelligence. This week, they're selling you a thermostat. The model is Claude Opus 5. It went live yesterday, and Anthropic's pitch is one sentence: close to the frontier intelligence of its most powerful widely available model, at half the price. In the next few minutes, exactly what shipped, the pricing fine print that most coverage is getting wrong, how the effort dial actually works and when to use it, the two quieter features that matter more than they sound, the honest limits including where this model is deliberately less capable, and a clear map of which Claude you should actually be using, because that lineup has become genuinely confusing. Confirmed versus claimed. As always, let's go. Start with what shipped. Claude Opus 5 is available now across Anthropic's platforms. It's the new default model on the Max plan and the strongest model available on Pro. Anthropic describes it as thoughtful and proactive, and the concrete claim is on coding and knowledge work, state-of-the-art on evaluations called Frontier Bench and GDP-Val AA. The practical framing they lean on is that it's built for everyday use. It needs less back and forth. It verifies its own work and it recovers from its own errors without you stepping in. If you've ever babysat an AI through a 5-message correction loop, that last part is the pitch. Now the pricing, and here's where you need to read carefully, because half the price is doing something specific. Opus 5 costs $5 per million input tokens and $25 per million output. That is identical to the model it replaces, Opus 4.8, not 1 cent cheaper. So the half the price line isn't comparing Opus 5 to its predecessor, it's comparing it to Fable 5, Anthropic's top-tier model, the one that briefly got caught in export controls last month. The honest translation, you're not paying less than you were. You're getting near top-tier capability at the mid-tier price you were already paying. That's still genuinely good news. It's a capability upgrade at a flat price, which is how this industry has always delivered value. But half the price in a headline and your bill goes down are two different sentences, and only one of them is true. This channel reads the fine print, so you don't have to. Which brings us to the feature that actually can lower your bill, the effort dial. Here's the idea. Reasoning models are expensive because they generate long internal chains of reasoning before answering, and you pay for every one of those tokens. For a genuinely hard architectural problem, that's money well spent. For reformat this JSON, you just paid a philosopher to do a filing job. Until now, your only lever was picking a different model entirely. Opus 5 lets you set the effort level, low, medium, or high, and the model calibrates how much reasoning it burns accordingly. Same model, same interface, 3 costs. And notice what that does at the organizational level. Because this is why Fortune framed the whole launch as a dial on your AI bill. A company can now route its routine, high-volume work through low effort, keep high effort for the genuinely hard 20%, and get predictable spend without maintaining a fleet of different model integrations. Longtime viewers will recognize that instantly. It's the 80-20 split this channel has applied to everything this month. Cheap model for volume, expensive model for the hard part, except now it's a built-in parameter instead of a workflow you have to engineer yourself. That's a real primitive, and I expect every lab to copy it within a quarter. There's also fast mode, which is the mirror image. Opus 5 runs at roughly 2.5 times its default speed for twice the base price. So the full picture is a 2-axis control panel, how hard it thinks, and how fast it answers, with the price moving in both directions. That's a meaningfully different product shape than, here are 3 models, pick one. 2 more releases landed alongside it, both in beta, and the second one is quietly the most interesting thing in this announcement. The first is mid-conversation tool changes. Developers can now change which tools the model has access to, mid-conversation, without invalidating the prompt cache. If that sounds like plumbing, it is, but it's expensive plumbing. Prompt caching is one of the biggest cost savers in agent development, and losing the cache every time your agent needed a different tool was a real tax. This quietly makes long-running agents cheaper. The second is automatic fallbacks on the API. Here's what it does. If a request gets flagged by Anthropic safety classifiers on Opus 5 or Fable 5, you can now have it automatically routed to a different model instead of simply being blocked. So instead of your application throwing an error, it degrades gracefully to another model and keeps working. Sit with that for a second because it's an unusually candid piece of engineering. It's a company acknowledging in product form that its own safety filters sometimes catch things they shouldn't, and building a graceful path for that reality rather than pretending it doesn't happen. Whether you read that as pragmatic or as an admission depends on your temperament. But as a developer, your app keeps working is strictly better than your app breaks. Before the limits, a quick word on what Anthropic is actually showing off with it, because the demos tell you who this model is for. Rather than the usual benchmark charts, The announcement page ships interactive artifacts that Opus 5 built, a working wind tunnel simulation, and an interactive 3D cell you can explore. Not screenshots, running things, and the customer testimonials aren't from AI startups, they're from a law firm and software engineering teams. Anthropic is also making a specific pitch to researchers, calling this its most capable, generally available model for scientific work, with particular gains in biology compared to its predecessor. Read those signals together, and the positioning is clear. This is not a model aimed at benchmark leaderboards or at demos for the timeline. It's aimed at the person who has to produce something real by Friday. A working simulation, a reviewed contract, a shipped feature, which honestly is the more useful direction for this industry to be pushing in. The frontier being smart is table stakes now. The frontier being usable by a busy professional without hand-holding is the actual product. Now the honest limits, because there are three, and this channel says them out loud. 1. The benchmarks are Anthropic's Frontier Bench and GDP Val AA results, the state-of-the-art claim, the close to Fable 5 framing. All of it comes from the company that makes the model published on launch day. That's normal, and Anthropic has a decent track record, but launch day vendor numbers are a starting line. The real verdict comes from independent evaluations and from a week in your own editor on your own code. 2. And I appreciate that they publish this. Opus 5 is deliberately not the most capable model in Anthropic's lineup on everything. The company states plainly that it remains behind Mythos 5 in offensive cybersecurity and in biology research. That's a capability disclosure, and it's the responsible kind. The most sensitive capabilities stay concentrated in the model with the tightest controls, and Anthropic says it's continuing to work with government agencies on pre-deployment testing, including for this release. In an industry that usually only publishes the numbers that flatter it, here's where our new model is intentionally weaker is worth acknowledging. 3. The release cadence has become genuinely confusing. This is Anthropic's fourth model in under 2 months, Mythos 5, then Fable 5, then Sonnet 5, and now Opus 5, alongside the Opus 4.8 it replaces. If you've lost the thread of which one you're supposed to use, you are not alone, and that's a real product problem, not a you problem. So let me fix that with a plain English map, the 30-second version of which Claude does what? Haiku is the small, cheap, fast one for high-volume, simple work. Sonnet is the mid-tier workhorse, the sensible default for most everyday coding and writing. Opus is the heavyweight for hard reasoning. And as of yesterday, Opus 5 is that tier, the new default on Max, the top option on Pro, and now with an effort dial so you can make the heavyweight behave economically. Fable 5 sits above it as the frontier capability model at roughly twice the price. And Mythos 5 is the most capable and most restricted, the one whose sensitive capabilities are handled with the tightest controls. If you're just choosing for daily work, Sonnet for volume, Opus 5 on low or medium effort for most real tasks, Opus 5 on high effort, or Fable 5 for the genuinely hard 20%. That's the whole decision tree. Now step back, because there's a pattern this week that almost nobody is naming, and it's the real story. In the last 5 days, Google shipped a flash tier model whose proudest headline number was 17% fewer output tokens and a lower price. DeepSeek shipped V4 with a flash variant at 28 cents per million output tokens, the lowest price anyone has attached to this capability class. And now Anthropic ships its flagship with a dial whose entire purpose is to let you spend less. 3 Frontier Labs, 5 days. Not one of them led with, look how much smarter it is, all 3 led with cost. That is a genuine inflection, and it tells you the market has changed underneath the marketing. Capability at the top is getting expensive and incremental, while the fight that actually decides revenue has moved to price, efficiency, and predictability. The moat was the model, then it was the price. This week the labs themselves confirmed it. And here's the closing thought, from a channel that mostly covers the open source side. A dial on your bill is a real useful improvement. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But notice what kind of improvement it is. It's a better rental agreement. You still don't own the model, you still can't run it on your hardware, and the dial only turns within the range the landlord allows. Meanwhile, on the other side of this same week, OpenWeight's got a price floor of 28 cents and a Frontier class model goes free on Monday. 2 very different answers to the same question. What should intelligence cost? And it's genuinely good for you that both are competing. So here's my question, and I'll pin it below. Does an effort dial actually change your AI spending? Or is the real answer for your workload a model you run yourself? Tell me which lever you'd rather have, a knob on the meter or no meter at all. I read every reply, and this one's a real fork in the road for how we all build. Every source, Anthropic's official announcement, the pricing page, and the reporting I cited is linked in the description so you can verify every number yourself. That's the standard on this channel. And Monday is a big one. Kimi K3's OpenWeights go public. So if you want the other half of this story, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.